Today, we're going to talk about the differences between a cine lens and a photo lens. Let's get started. Now, in this day and age of hybrid stills and video cameras and the interchangeable lens mounts, the options to use different lenses on our cameras are endless. Why we choose a cinema lens or a photo lens really depends on what the usage is. Now, obviously, if you're shooting photos, you probably are sticking with a photo lens. But if you're shooting videos or cinema, you really do have the option of going both ways. Now, the most obvious difference between a photo and a cinema lens is its size and weight. Photo lenses tend to be a lot more lightweight and portable compared to its cinema counterpart. Photo lenses typically have plastic housings and are made to fit in a bag and be a little bit more discreet. Cinema lenses, however, are made mostly of metal and are very robust and tend to have a larger size. Now, some manufacturers make the exact same lens in a photo and a cinema version. And just moving the optics from the photo version into a cinema housing will increase the size and weight of it substantially. Now, one of the reasons why cinema lenses are much bigger and heavier than its photo counterpart is because you get rings of control over every aspect of the lens. Most photo lenses have electronic contacts where the camera body itself will control functions. Now, in a cinema lens, you control all those on the lens itself and not on the camera body. Now, the reason for this is because most cinema lenses are used on a production set with multiple people operating the same camera. This allows another operator to control the zoom, the focus, and even the iris on the lens if all the controls are external. The increased size of the housing on the cinema lens can make it consistent across a whole line of focal lengths. If you take a look at a bunch of photo lenses, they tend to all be different sizes. When you take a look at a line of cinema lenses, they tend to all be the same size, regardless of focal length. This again just helps large production teams change lenses really quickly when they're on set. Now, when you're using things like matte boxes on set, you want to be able to switch the lenses in and out very quickly, and you don't want to have to go and fuss with the changes of the diameter of the lens. Also, the consistency in the housing and the weight of the lens helps when you've already had a camera on a stabilizer or on a gimbal. The last thing you want to do on a big video production is change your focal length and then spend another 15 minutes recalibrating your gimbal just to get it working again. Speaking of accessories like matte boxes, that's another distinction between a cinema lens and a photo lens. Photo lenses are great for speed because it typically houses screw-on filters that you can put on and off really quick, where cinema lenses take a little bit more time to set up as they utilize matte boxes for things like filters. The extra effort into making cinema lenses more robust is because of the environment that it's typically used in. Photography lenses are usually used by a single operator that sticks the lens in a bag really quickly to travel around. Cinema lenses tend to be used on bigger productions where there's a lot of people moving equipment around and they're in harsher environments, so they really need to be more durable to stand up to the extra abuse that a cinema lens might encounter in its environment. Now, what about the differences on how these two types of lenses function? For one, the focus throw on a cinema lens tend to be a little bit longer than on a photo lens. Most photo lenses have autofocus capabilities, and a photographer needs to focus on a point really quickly. Say a wildlife photographer needs to jump from one point to the other very, very fast, so the focus throw on most photo lenses is very short. Now, that's not the best when you're shooting cinema or video, when you want a nice, smooth focus pull from one subject to the other. That's why typically a cinema lens has a much longer focus throw than a photo lens in order for us to get that buttery, smooth focus pull from one object to the next. Now, speaking of focus, photo lenses tend to suffer from what's called focus breathing. What focus breathing is when you're focusing from one object to the other, it almost appears as if the object is growing in size. Now, this just has to do with the way it's constructed and how it's actually focusing from something that's further away to something that's closer and vice versa. Cinema lenses are constructed in a way where this focus breathing is minimized. The objects don't appear to increase or decrease in size, making it a much smoother transition between one to the other. Now, on zoom lenses in particular, you might have heard of a concept called being parfocal. What parfocal means is as you're changing the focal length, the focus point doesn't change as well. Now, higher-end cinema lenses are designed to be parfocal, which means if you have an object focused in at say 50 millimeters and you zoom into 100 millimeters, the focus on that object shouldn't change. Most photo lenses are not parfocal, and they don't need to be because you're taking a still. So if it takes the camera and the lens a split second to zoom in and zoom out, lose focus on something, it's totally fine. On video though, if you're trying to do certain shots where you're pulling zoom or changing the focal length, you really also want it to maintain focus on the object so you're not having to pull focus and pull zoom at the same time. Moving on to aperture or iris control, again, photo lenses tend to have that control electronically via the camera. Changing the aperture in a photo lens sometimes creates this clicking noise that you really don't want if you're in an environment where you're recording sound. Now, cinema lenses have irises that are declicked, which means you can close and open the iris without any noticeable or detectable sound. Now, when it comes to operating photo versus cinema lenses, which one's best? It just depends. Sometimes if you're in a run and gun environment or you're using a smaller camera body, the smaller photo lens actually becomes an easier tool for you to use. It might balance better on your smaller body. It might be something that can be packed away a little bit easier if you're trying to travel or be more incognito with, or if you're working on a set with a bunch of crew members, or you're in harsher environments, or you need to be more precise and have more control. Cinema lenses tend to be the better option. They are bigger, they are bulkier, they are heavier, and oftentimes they're more expensive. The expense comes at all the extra features that a photo lens just doesn't have. The simple fact that it's just built more robust is going to cost more money, let alone some of the other features like it being parfocal, minimum focus breathing, and having all the control dials at your fingertips. That's it, everybody. That's our video on photo lenses versus cinema lenses. Both are acceptable and we use them all the time. It just depends on what your application is. Knowing the differences will help you better choose which one to use on your next production. Hey, make sure you drop a comment below. Let us know your feedback. Let us know your comments about photo versus cinema lenses and how that information has helped you and can help many others in this creative community. We love creating videos based on your feedback, so please let us know how we're doing and what other future content you'd love us to create. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this video, and we will see you on the next one.